In a small village lived Bala, a poor but hard-working man. Bala worked in the fields from morning until night, but no matter how much he tried, he couldn't escape poverty. His wife, Jemila, was also very hardworking. She sold small things in the market and did any small jobs she could find. Still, they barely had enough money to eat, let alone send their children to school. Every day, Bala saw his children growing up without an education, and it hurt him deeply. He loved his family, but no matter how hard he worked, he couldn't give them a better life. Bala felt like a failure. His heart grew heavy with the shame of his situation. One day, he heard people in the village whispering about a wealthy man who had once been as poor as him, but had found a way to become rich. Desperate, Bala decided to visit the man and ask for help. When Bala reached the man's large house, he felt nervous. The man greeted him with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "You want to be rich, don't you?" the man asked. Bala nodded, ashamed but hopeful. The man handed Bala a small bottle with a dark liquid inside. "Drink this when you get home. When you wake up, you have all the money you ever dreamed of. But remember, this wealth comes with a price. You can't use the money on your children or to send them to school no matter what. If you break this rule, you will lose everything." Bala felt a shiver of fear, but pushed it away. He thanked the man and hurried home. That night, while his family slept, Bala drank the potion. The taste was bitter and it made his stomach turn, but soon he fell into a deep sleep. In the middle of the night, Bala woke up and felt something strange. He looked over at the old wardrobe in the corner of their small hut, and it was glowing. He opened it and saw something that made his heart race. Money, more than he had ever seen in his life. The wardrobe was filled with it. Excited, Bala grabbed handfuls of the money and hid it under the floor. His poverty was finally over. The next morning, Bala acted as though nothing had changed. He went out to work in the fields like usual. But Jemila noticed that something was different. Bala seemed distracted and tense. At last, Jemila felt relieved, thinking God had answered their prayers. According to what Bala had told her, Bala had lied, saying the money came from a client who wanted him to work on several acres of land. Days passed, and still he didn't use the money to help the family. The children cried for food, and Jemila begged Bala to use the money to send them to school. But Bala refused, his eyes cold and strange. "No, I can't use the money for that," he said, turning away. Jemila grew more and more suspicious. One night, Bala left the house, saying he had business in the village. Jemila, curious and worried, decided to follow him. She kept her distance and saw Bala walk to a dark, abandoned hut on the edge of the village. Hiding behind a tree, she watched as Bala met with the same wealthy man. "You are doing well, Bala," the man said in a low voice. "But remember the price. The money is yours, but you cannot spend it on your children. If you do, everything will be taken from you. And there is one more thing. Each night, a wound will appear on your leg. Your wife must lick it clean, or your fate will get worse. If she refuses, you will both suffer. Jemila gasped quietly in horror. She had never imagined that Bala's wealth was tied to such terrible conditions. She turned to leave, but her foot made a cracking sound, and Bala and the man looked away. "You weren't supposed to be here," the man said, his eyes narrowing. "Now you know the truth." Jemila trembled with fear. "You will not speak of this to anyone," the man warned. "If you do, you will die, and so will your husband. You will also be punished. From now on, you must tend to Bala's wound every night to keep him alive." Jemila was terrified, but she couldn't defy the man. That night, when Bala returned home, a terrible wound appeared on his leg, deep and foul-smelling. It was horrible to look at, but Jemila had no choice. Crying silently, she knelt beside him and licked the wound, just as the man had said. The taste was awful and the smell was worse, but Jemila forced herself to continue. If she didn't, she knew both of them would suffer. Night after night, Jemila tended to Bala's wound. The heart drained her. She grew weaker and thinner with each passing day. Her once bright eyes became dull, and her body started to smell bad from being close to the festering wound for so long. The villagers began to notice. They whispered behind her back, wondering what was wrong with her. Some said she was sick, others said she was dealing with something terrible. Meanwhile, Bala's wealth grew. He bought big houses, flashy cars, and wore expensive clothes. He seemed happy with his riches, but the price he paid was clear. He never spent any money on his children. They remained poor and hungry, while Bala lived like a king. Whenever Jemila begged him to help the children, he only grew angrier. "Do you want me to lose everything?" he would shout. "I can't use the money on them, you know that." Jemila's heart broke, but she was too weak to fight. She kept the secret of Bala's deal, even as it slowly destroyed her. One day, the people of the village couldn't ignore the changes in Jemila anymore. She had become so thin and smelled so foul that everyone avoided her. The village elders called her to a meeting and demanded to know what was wrong. Jemila was scared, but she knew she couldn't tell them the truth. She had promised to keep the secret, else she and Bala would suffer. But the deal had taken too much from her. Jemila confessed everything about the agreement with the wealthy man, the condition of the money, and how she had been forced to lick Bala's wound every night. The elders were shocked. They pitied Jemila, but couldn't let her stay in the village after hearing such a terrible story. To save her from further shame and danger, they banished her from the village. Jemila left with a heavy heart, but at least she was free from the horrible situation. She had no home and no family, but she was finally free. As for Bala, when Jemila was no longer there to tend to his wound, his mind began to unravel. He lost his sanity and started wandering the village, talking to himself, screaming at the air and clawing at his leg. The people who once envied his wealth now pitied him. He had big houses and expensive cars, but he was a broken man, driven mad by the weight of his choices. The village never forgot the sad story of Bala and Jemila. They saw it as a warning that greed and secrets could destroy even the strongest family. In the end, Bala's wealth brought him nothing but misery, and Jemila, though punished, found a small peace away from the burden that had stolen so much from her. Moral: greed can blind us to what truly matters in life. In the pursuit of wealth, Bala lost his compassion, his family's well-being, and eventually his sanity. Wealth gained through dishonesty and darkness comes with a heavy price, and no amount of money can replace love, trust, or the happiness of a united family. True riches come from caring for the people we love, not from hoarding material things at their expense. Additionally, the story teaches us that keeping dark secrets can destroy relationships and lead to even greater suffering. Jemila, though loyal and loving, paid the price for hiding the truth, showing that it's better to face hardship with honesty than to live under the weight of a terrible secret. So this is the end of the story. She must lick her husband's wound to keep their secret. Please support your girl by subscribing to my YouTube channel. God bless you. And thanks for always watching. Goodbye.